The first step you're not allowed to take. You know that moment when you wake up and your chest is already tight before your feet hit the floor? When the to do list stretches 17 miles long, the bank account is giving you that look, and your mind is screaming for help, but your mouth won't form the words? Yeah, that moment, the one where you're supposed to be strong, supposed to have it together, supposed to be the one everyone leans on. But secretly, you're wondering, where do I even begin? I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Candace Butler, and let me tell you, this woman is not just doing work that changes lives. She is building the actual infrastructure that makes transformation possible for Black professionals and entrepreneurs who feel stuck, isolated, and overwhelmed. She's out here reminding people that they are not alone and that there are real, tangible starting points even when everything feels impossible. Candace Butler doesn't just talk about change. She architects the bridges that carry people from survival to something that actually feels like living. And today I want to share what I learned from our conversation because if you've ever felt like you're drowning and no one's throwing you a lifeline, this is for you. Let's talk about where to begin when you genuinely don't know where to begin. Not in some motivational poster kind of way, but in a real grounded, I need help right now kind of way. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes you're going through something so heavy that you can't see the next step. And when you look around for support, for a hotline, for a center, for someone who gets it, that there's nothing. Or worse, there's something, but it's not built for you. It doesn't speak your language, it doesn't understand your context. And you're left sitting there thinking, who can I even turn to? Physically, mentally, emotionally, where is the help? I believe in God, and I know many of you do too. But faith doesn't erase the need for human support, for resources, for someone to pick up the phone when you're at your breaking point. And the reality is, there aren't enough hotlines, there aren't enough centers, there aren't enough space designed for Black women, for Black professionals, for Black entrepreneurs who are carrying the weight of generational trauma, systemic barriers, and personal pain all at once. So when life feels heavy and you don't know where to begin, what do you actually do? Here's what Candace Butler and I talked about, and here's what I want you to hold on to. First, begin with one honest check in with yourself. Before you write the business plan, before you update the resume, before you try to fix everyone else's problems, ask yourself this: how am I really doing? Not the version you tell your mama, not the version you post on social media, the real version, the one that includes the words overwhelm, fear, depression, burnout, exhaustion, rage, grief. Naming what you feel is not weakness, it's the first act of courage. It's the doorway to your next beginning. We spend so much time performing strength that we forget to check in with our own souls. We think that if we just keep moving, keep grinding, keep showing up, eventually we'll feel better. But that's not how healing works. Healing requires you to stop long enough to say, I am not okay. And that is okay. That pause, that admission, that honest inventory of your emotional state, that's where you begin. Second, you're not the only one, and you are not weak for needing help. I need you to hear that again. You are not the only one. Right now, there is another Black woman sitting in her car in a parking lot crying before she goes into work. There is another Black entrepreneur staring at a business loan rejection, wondering if they'll ever catch a break. There is another Black professional lying awake at 3 in the morning, replaying every mistake, every microaggression, every moment they had to code switch just to survive the day. You are not alone. And reaching for help, whether it's a therapist, a coach, a support group, a trusted friend, a pastor, a mentor, that is not failure. That is strategy. We've been taught that asking for help is a sign of weakness, especially as Black women. We've been taught to be the strong friend, the backbone, the one who holds it all together. But that narrative is killing us, literally. The stress, the isolation, the refusal to be vulnerable. It's costing us our health, our joy, our peace. So let me say it plainly, needing help is not a character flaw, it's a human reality. And the people who are thriving, they're the ones who learned how to ask for it. Third, start small, but start now. One step for your mind, one step for your money, one step for your mission. That's it. You don't have to overhaul your entire life today. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take one small, compassionate step in each of these three areas. One mental health step. Maybe that's saving a crisis text line number in your phone. Maybe it's booking a free consultation with a therapist. Maybe it's joining an online support group for Black women. Maybe it's just telling one person I'm struggling and I need help. That counts. That's a beginning. One financial or stability step. Maybe that's calling a nonprofit business center to ask about free workshops. Maybe it's attending a webinar on financial literacy. Maybe it's reaching out to a community development financial institution that actually serves Black entrepreneurs. Maybe it's just opening that scary email from the bank and reading it instead of avoiding it. That counts too. One purpose or mission step. Maybe that's writing a 10-line vision for what you actually want your life to look like. Maybe it's sending one email to someone you admire, asking for advice. Maybe it's researching one certification or program that aligns with your passion. Maybe it's just saying out loud, I deserve to build something that brings me joy. That's a step. Where to begin becomes so much less terrifying when you break it down like this. You're not trying to climb the whole mountain today, you're just putting on your shoes. Let me tell you about Candace Kovar, a Black woman with a master's in clinical psychology who spent over 7 years serving her community in behavioral health. She was doing the work, the deep soul draining work of holding space for other people's trauma. And she was good at it, but she was also exhausted. She was also a mother. She was also someone who wanted to build a legacy, not just survive another grant cycle. So she asked herself, where do I begin again? And here's what she did. She didn't throw away her mental health background. She leaned into it. She designed programs and tools that would continue serving her community even after she left. Then she gave herself permission to redefine where to begin. She researched franchise options during the pandemic, looked for something aligned with wellness and community impact, and eventually opened a Toastique gourmet toast and juice bar in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She built a space where health and wellness were accessible, where people could gather, where she could still serve, but in a way that didn't drain her dry. Candace Kovar didn't ignore her past. She built on it. She honored her mental health expertise and her entrepreneurial drive at the same time. And now she's a visible model of what it looks like to begin again without abandoning who you are. She grew up in a family that owned pizza franchises, watching her mother become a strong, independent businesswoman. She worked her way up in the family business, then earned her bachelor's and master's in clinical psychology. She developed multiple behavioral health programs and assessments so her contributions would outlive her time on staff. And when she was ready to pivot, she didn't start from scratch. She started from legacy. What Candace Kovar teaches us is this: you can begin where you are, honoring both your mental health and your entrepreneurial drive. You don't have to choose between healing and building, you can do both. Then there's Candace Nelson, who lost her job during the dot-com bust right around the time of September 11th. Talk about a moment where you don't know where to begin. She had followed the traditional career path, done everything right, and then the floor fell out. So she paused. She asked herself, what actually brings me joy? And the answer was baking. So she spent 2 years not posting about it, not announcing it, just quietly perfecting recipes, building a brand, defining her niche. She showed up everywhere with her cupcakes, handing out business cards, building word of mouth demand. And when she finally opened Sprinkles Cupcakes, it sold out on day one because she had already built a loyal base. Candace Nelson came from tech and startup work before the dot-com bust, and she used a painful stopping point, job loss, as a forced reflection point to design a new beginning around joy and excellence, not just survival. She attempted to launch a cupcake business during peak diet culture, facing constant dismissal and rejection, but she kept showing up. She revolutionized the cupcake industry by turning a simple product into an aspirational branded experience. She proved that starting from joy and craft rather than from a safe job can still be strategic and profitable. Candace Nelson's story teaches us that where to begin can start with a simple question: what do I love enough to get rejected over and over and still show up? That's not naive. That's strategic. That's how you build something that lasts. And let's zoom out for a second because this isn't just about individual beginnings, it's structural. The original Blexit movement, started by Malik Connolly in 2016, was about helping Black Americans begin again economically. It was about leaving financial systems that had historically harmed Black communities and building new structures rooted in Black economic independence. It was about asking, where do we even begin to build wealth when the systems we're in were never designed for us? The movement emerged against a backdrop of long-standing financial discrimination, wealth gaps, and limited access to fair credit and capital for Black individuals and entrepreneurs. Deep historical disenfranchisement of Black communities by mainstream banking and financial systems left many Black families feeling they had nowhere safe to begin financially. So Blexit launched as a movement focused on Black economic independence and alternative financial tools. It positioned itself as a starting point for conversations about savings, ownership, and cooperative economics in Black communities. It elevated public dialogue on Black economic independence and the need for financial systems that genuinely serve Black communities. It inspired community level conversations and organizing around where and how Black money is stored and circulated. That question, where do I begin financially, is not just personal, it's communal, it's generational. And the answer includes movement work, local co ops, community development financial institutions, financial education, and collective organizing. You don't have to do it alone. In fact, you can. So here's what I need you to hear: you are not the only one going through this. There are others going through worse or similar, often in silence. And sometimes it feels like there's no one to turn to. But there are starting points, there are pathways, there are people like Candace Butler building bridges. There are women like Candace Kovar and Candace Nelson who stood at their own crossroads and chose to begin again. And now it's your turn. Where to begin is not a question you have to answer perfectly. It's a question you answer honestly, one small wall step at a time. So I'm going to ask you to do something right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Take out your phone, open your notes app, and answer 3 questions. One, where am I hurting right now? Write the truth, the mental truth, the emotional truth, the financial truth, the spiritual truth. Don't edit it. Don't make it pretty. Just name it. Two, who or what is one safe place I can reach for? You hotline, a trusted person, a free clinic, a church, a therapist directory, a business support center, a friend who actually listens. Write it down. Three, what is one small step I can take this week toward my next beginning? Mind, money, or mission? Just one. Write it down. And then act on just one of those steps, even if it's as small as saving a number in your phone, even if it's as simple as sending one email, even if it's just saying out loud, I need help, do it. Because here's the thing, you don't have to hold the entire mountain in your head. You just have to commit to one compassionate first step. And that step, that tiny, brave, honest step, is where your next beginning and lives. You deserve softness. You deserve rest. You deserve to begin again as many times as it takes. And the world is waiting for the version of you that's no longer performing strength, but living in it quietly, powerfully, authentically. So begin right now. Begin.